All right, finna go ahead and get it started, man. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode 190, we're going to be discussing the biggest struggles that we must overcome in today's generation. Now, if there is one that I forget to mention that you think is worth mentioning, please feel free to go ahead and comment it either after the podcast is over or when I'm live. Preferably when I'm live, of course. Like I said, going live every single Thursday about 7 or 8 o'clock, somewhere in between that time, I'll be live. So we're going to be discussing this for today's episode, so there's going to be many different aspects that we go ahead and cover for sure. A few things I want to say before I go ahead and get it started. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on Twitch, Rumble, and on TikTok at Life of a Champ Podcast on every single platform. As well as make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube shorts as well as my YouTube clips. Tap in with those for sure. I'll be posting more here very, very soon. And also, I'll be doing more live streams in the future. So if there's a specific video they want me to go ahead and react to, tap in with that for sure. And I'll be doing more reactions here soon. I know I've been saying that, but I'll be more of a man of my word in this upcoming week. I'm going to be locked in, so tap in with that for sure. All right, let's go ahead and get it started, man. So, like I said, the biggest struggles that you must overcome in today's generation. Obviously, we can address that there's a lot of different struggles that every single person is going through, but I'm going to address the struggles that I see not only people who don't have enough money, but people who I would say just the general populace, the problems that I see that I've observed, that I've overcame myself, and the ones that I'm going through as well, of course. And like I said, maybe if you are watching this, maybe you're let's just say I want you to comment, hey, I got over this problem, hey, I'm going through it right now, or hey, I've seen this in society, and I can recognize that a lot of people are also going through this. I want you to go and leave in the comments for sure. The first one, and this has been probably one of the biggest struggles. Mm, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say it has been a struggle for me. I'm not gonna say it's one of the biggest struggles. That's for damn sure. Compared to like I said, when I'm comparing myself to other people, I've definitely have done things and have proven things to myself that most people wouldn't even think of doing. First one is this. This is the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems that I see within today's society and especially within our generation. This is the inability to conquer lust and temptation, right? That is the first one. It goes hand in hand with excessive pleasure and all those things regarding, let's just say anything sexual. We'll say that for sure. So obviously, if you begin to observe society, you see things have been over sexualized in a marketing sense, right? We have been manipulated by society in order to see things a lot more sexual than they should be seen, for sure, right? It all goes back to the movies that we see, the propaganda that is, the music industries and the ads and the news and all that shit, right? It's all purported in a way because it is an appealing thing, all right? It appeals to the natural primitive senses that we do have, right? So that is something that can easily be manipulated, and it is 100,000% being manipulated and being purported to us, even without our, I'm gonna say without our consent, man, without our control, which is honestly a very very shocking thing. But it, like I said, then again, it's kind of not shocking at all, right? But the way that I personally see this, and have encountered this time and time again. Social media is going to definitely be a huge thing that has definitely warped the perception of a lot of men, especially a lot of younger men, when it comes to how they view women, and that has led into many different problems that men have had. Maybe it's the approaching thing. Obviously, let me go ahead and inform you on something. There's a study for this. I don't know the specific numbers, but I'm going to give you the general idea that I remember. Right, more often than not, women want to be approached by men. If you didn't know this by now you know, right? So if you're one of these men that are out here taking the most passive approach to dating, saying, "Oh, well, you know what? I don't really want to go up to women. It's kind of, I get kind of nervous. I don't really want to talk to her. But if they come up to me, right? If you're taking this a passive approach in dating, you are just like a woman. So you need to stop being feminine. You need to be masculine. You need to go out there and get it. You need to go out there and hunt. You need to go out there and put yourself out. That is the first thing I have to say. So, with that being said, they did a study. Women like to be approached, right? Obviously, it depends on the type of man that you are as well, which, like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into that, right? If you're good looking, it's flattering. If you're not good looking or if you're not appealing, you're a fucking creep, right? That's the harsh reality of dating. That's the harsh reality of approaching. That's just what it is, right? But more often than not, women want to be approached, and more often than not, at least in today's society, through the people that they've polled within this one study, men are more afraid than ever to go up to a woman and have a conversation, and obviously to try to begin to start updating, right? That is one thing that they absolutely dread for whatever reason, confidence issues, whatever. Over sexualization is going to play an aspect within that, and that is based off of the way that they see women, right? And it is also, like I said, this is the big problem, obviously, with social media in itself, right? Men nowadays have more of an inclination to go ahead and seek out porn more than ever, right? We're getting introduced to this earlier and earlier as the years go on. I'm sure there's people fucking 10 years old, 15 years old, or definitely 15. I want to say like 12, 13 years old that gets introduced to this, maybe even younger than that. That was probably around the same time that I was kind of introduced to these type of things. Um, Obviously piqued curiosity on top of you hearing everybody talk about sex and all this shit, right? Um, so yeah, like I said, that is one thing that you're going to have to deal with, and like I said, this is a struggle that I recognize that the masses is having, but this is also a struggle that you're probably having right now. And with that being said, it is also something that you must get over. You must conquer this. You must find and seek out a solution to the problem that is the struggle, right? So with that being said, there's a lot of different aspects to this, but essentially you're going to need to defeat the beast of lust, and you're going to need to constantly slay this beast, or this beast will take over your life and will literally alter your life for the worst. That's what I'll say for sure. Another aspect of this, lust, temptation, excessive pleasure culture that I see, that is one of the biggest struggles that people have to deal with, right? Whether they consciously see it as a struggle or unconsciously deal with it, right? Women nowadays, and especially this generation of women, all right, the women that I've dated, the women that I've talked to, the women that I've purely observed, and the women that other men around me have purely observed, right? This generation of women is the most promiscuous that I've ever seen, and that we probably will ever see ever. Right now, where we are. I don't know if it can get any worse with how promiscuous these women nowadays, right? You have women who are 18, 19, and they already have a body count of over 10 people, if not more, maybe 50, maybe 25, and that I'm going to say that is from the standards of what was placed on women and expected of women, let's just say 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, absolutely insane, right? There's no longer Women no longer see that as something that they need to go ahead and protect, right? Something that needs to be prioritized, or something that needs to be put on a pedestal. They see this as a casual thing, and I don't know if you know this, but the downfall of society is going to be in the form of over sexualization, things like polygamy, right? Things like, having multiple partners. Obviously, that's polygamy, but having multiple partners and this thing being kind of okay within society, that is the downfall of any and every empire that has ever existed. You get to the point where you have excessive pleasure. You get to the point where lust becomes something that is just super, super normal, and it is not something that is regulated. And I do believe that it must be regulated because it can literally take over and destroy an empire, and that is what you see with the West falling nowadays. You can kind of see this, and like I said, the signs are written all over the walls. It's just a matter if you're an observer to go ahead and see these things. But yes, another one of those aspects that definitely leads into lust and temptation. The women are giving it out for free, right? And like I said, for $5, you can see a woman's everything. For $5, for the price of for cheaper than a price of a meal, right? You can see a woman's everything, right? And that leads to the degenerate side of society that, like I said, is the biggest struggle that men have to deal with, right? Men can't even look women in the eyes without feeling nervous, right? They can't even go up to a woman and actually introduce themselves because they don't have the social skills because of these reasons, right? And like I said, it goes into um, a vast variety of problems that stem from that over sexualization, that lust, that temptation, that excessive pleasure that I'm talking about. It it out it's it's an outspur of a lot more problems than I even just had mentioned right now. And it is one of the biggest struggles that I see time and time again. And like I said, I'm going to address these things. I'm going to give you kind of my take and kind of what I would do and what I've done in these situations, right? So one thing I want to mention as well, right? So okay, I'm gonna go back, right? So this is one of the first things that kind of got me into self-improvement. This was something that I was struggling with. This is something that I've observed that needed to be conquered early on. I was about 17, 18 years old when I came across this one trend called no fap, which is like also semen retention. Like I said, if you don't know what these things are, if you've never heard of these things, it's going to sound kind of crazy, but essentially it's the abstaining from porn, the abstaining from masturbation, abstaining from self pleasure and all that shit. Essentially, that's what it is, right? That's the essential concept, right? And when I first heard this concept, and just like you, if this is your first time hearing this concept, you're like, impossible. What the fuck are you talking about? No, you're just bullshitting. You're just like I didn't believe it at all. I didn't believe it at all because I was so hooked on a habit. I was so hooked on a mindset. I was so hooked on a view of the world, and I was like, dude, everybody does this shit. Like, there's nobody that I know that doesn't do this shit because it's just so normal. And not only is it normal, people tell you that it's normal. People say this. People say that this is a good thing for your health. Bullshit. Bullshit. It maybe like I said, it's not good for your health. It's not good for your mind. It's not good for any of that shit. And if anyone who tells you otherwise is simply not looking deep enough, not looking at the fruits that this will reap, right? Or like I said, the fruits, right? But essentially, like I said, the problems that will come from these types of issues, right? And the one thing that I will say that has helped me the most is simply just being mindful of this, right? Being mindful of the issue in itself, right? Like I said, needing to abstain and needing to remove the triggers of porn or the triggers of, like I said, maybe you go on Instagram, you see a bunch of women that are models and things like that. Then therefore that thought leads into, okay, well, you know what, I'm feeling this type of way, and and then you succumb to the temptation, that lust, right? You start lusting for these women, and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna hop on my browser. I'm gonna go to the private browser, and then I'm gonna, you already know where that's going. I know you, brother. I know you. Don't act like you're slick. You've done it before. I know you've done it at least once. Don't lie to me now. Don't lie to me now. With that being said, man, you need to stop doing that, man. It is one of the biggest problems that is within society, right? It trickles down to a lot of different problems, and you must recognize that, right? I'm only gonna give you a few of the trickle down effect, essentially, of like I said, of the lust, of the temptation, of the excessive pleasure. But what I will say with this as well is I have defeated this beast, and I have constantly needed to defeat this beast in the past, and I am definitely a good person that can go ahead and say these things because I have defeated this myself. The self pleasure, the porn, all of that I have defeated, right? I've constantly needed to defeat it over and over again, but I have defeated it compared to the average person, way more than the average person. But like I said, you need to go ahead and figure this out yourself. This is going to take some time. It's not going to be something that you can just cut off instantly. It's not like it's a bad habit and you just say, okay, I'm just going to stop doing it, right? You're going to be encountered with this beast time and time again. You're going to need to slay this beast more than once. And that's simply just what it is. And like I said, that is the reality of life. But the only way that I can speak about these things and feel free to speak about these things is because I'm not shackled to these issues, because I've already superseded my mindset. My mindset has already passed and surpassed these issues that I see within today's society. That is why I can speak about them today. But one thing I want to mention as well, this has been the greatest tool that I've used that has helped me get past lust. It is staying grounded in things that I make a need that supersede the want. And what I mean by that is this, right? I have chosen a decision, right? I was a person who indulge within all these things that I've mentioned. And I mentioned the promiscuous women, right? I have indulged within my fair share of women. I have indulged within my fair share of self pleasure and of all these things, right? I've indulged within all these things, right? But I have also came out on the other side. I've also done the things that most people wouldn't think about doing: abstaining from self pleasure, getting off of porn, settling down with a woman, right? I have done all these things, and like I said, this is what I would definitely recommend because, like I said, I've been on both sides, brother. And like I was mentioning, right, one of the most profound thoughts that I've heard that I've done consciously is made a commitment device. And if you don't know what a commitment device is, it is essentially the concept of you making a commitment to yourself when you're in the right mindset, saying, this is how I would like to live my life because I know in this mindset right now that this is the best way to live life based off of my values, this is the best decision for my life, right? And what I came to that conclusion was me having a girlfriend, me settling down with one woman, regardless of my lust, regardless of temptation, regardless of excessive pleasure. This is the best move on the chessboard. So I need to go ahead and make it. I need to go ahead and make that chess move, right? So I recognized something thoroughly, right? When I had met this woman, right? When I had met the woman that I'm with right now, I was in a state where I was abstaining from all these things for such a long time, right? And she was the first person where I was like, holy shit, this is a person that I would really consider making that commitment device that I made, that I said earlier, where I would say, you know what, I need to rid myself from these problems, I need to rid myself from these struggles, and she'd be the person that I would rid myself from these struggles with, right? And I understood very, very thoroughly that there needs to be a want or a value that is greater than the want or temptation of excessive pleasure. There needs to be something that is greater than that, right? And I came to the conclusion of this right here. I would much rather avoid myself from hurting my woman by acting in a like in a in succumbing to temptation, right? Essentially that's what it is, right? It would be much more. I would much rather deal with the want and the neglect of the temptation that exists within that would be presented to me, as opposed to hurting my partner, right? I'd much rather stay grounded in something that I deem to be a need, which is, like I said, a wife, a good quality woman, a day one woman, right? I would much rather want to be grounded to that, and I value that higher than the need and want for lust. So you need to create a reason that is greater than your circumstance right now. That is one of the only ways that you will overcome lust, right? You can also overcome lust in many different ways, but that is one way that I'll say that has helped me so much, because it is something that you must understand, that you must have a want that is greater than the temptation in that want. Because if you don't, you're going to fall back. You're 100% going to fall back. You're going to stumble. You're going to need to slay the beast of temptation, of lust, once again, because of that reason, right? And with that being said, the question I have for you is this: do you have something that you value greater than the temptation that you have? And if you have something that in mind that you value greater, you must hold on to that. Because quite frankly, if you don't, you're going to need to slay the beast once again. So yes, one of the biggest struggles that I see that you must overcome within today's generation is going to be temptation, lust, and excessive pleasure. You must get over this. You must recognize that most people are a victim of this for many different reasons, right? Social media being one of these things that makes them a victim, but you must get over these things, because if not, you'll be a victim. And like I said, the 99% of people you meet are a victim of this. They're getting slayed by the beast of temptation and of lust. They're getting slayed. I'm just gonna say that, brother. So yeah, that is the first struggle that I have, right? So the next one that I have, and like I had mentioned, right, if there's any specific struggles that you think people must overcome in today's generation, maybe it's an observable problem that you kind of see, I want you to leave in the comments, and we'll go ahead and evaluate it. Let me read some of these comments real quick. Not only should women cherish their bodies more and not sleep around, but men should see women's bodies as something that should be cherished as well. And 100% I agree with that. Before we move on, yes, I 100% agree with that. Women do not value themselves enough as much as they once did. They do not. They see that, and they've been convinced, and they've been fooled by society, thinking that it is okay and empowering to go ahead and sleep around and do whatever you would like, be an independent woman. I'm gonna go ahead and sleep with as many men as I would like, and I want a man that's gonna go ahead and settle down and accept me for who I am. That is not how the world works. I'm sorry. That is the message that has been purported to young women, and I have had to deal with a bunch of women who were in that mindset, who were in my opinion absolutely disgusting because of that reason. And hey, like I said, I do believe women. I agree with Jaden right there. If you're a woman, you must cherish your body, especially as a man too as well. Before I move on, right? This notion that men can just sleep around and there's no consequences, and there's this notion that women can sleep around and there's no consequences, is absolutely false. If you heard from most men will say, "Oh, there's no consequence." It's bullshit. I don't believe that at all. It's not true. Like I said, go ahead and do it yourself and let me know. Because quite frankly, I have done it myself, and I have seen the problems that can come with that, and that do come with making that decision, right? And not only have I seen it from personal experience, but I've seen it from the outside, on the outside, just observing. There's so many problems. A lot of men that sleep around, they can't settle down to save their life. They can't settle down. They can't put their values above their wants, and they're a victim. They're a victim of their wants instead of somebody who values something greater than their wants. They're a child. They're very, very immature. You see what I'm saying? Those men, regardless of how much money they make, regardless of their status, regardless of whatever, they're children when it comes to defeating temptation and lust and excessive pleasure. They're simply just children. I look at them and I'm like, you need to grow up. Don't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter your status. You need to grow up. But like I said, sleeping around with abundance of women is going to put you in that mindset of saying, you know what, man, this is okay. I can do whatever I want. I'm a high value man. I'm a boss. I'm a boss babe. Whatever. All this bullshit, right? You're gonna have problems. There is consequences to your actions, right? There is a reaction to your action, and you must know that. And you must understand and internalize that very, very thoroughly. Because if not, you're gonna be fooled by today's society. Society's gonna bamboozle your shit off the rip. Off the rip. Hold on. One thing that could be a struggle is that people run towards fun instead of fulfillment, and when life isn't fun, they hate it. Okay, okay, okay. Hold on. Okay, before you cook, let me go back. Let me go to the next one. Anthony said they've been tricked, bamboozled, led astray by society, 100%. And like I said, this is a lot of the things that I'm going to be mentioning on today's episode. I'm gonna get into the next one. Like I said, if there's anything you have to say, I know I kind of rambled on for a minute on that specific one, but I believe very, very thoroughly about that one. Like I said, if you conquer that one thing that I have already mentioned, you're going to be in a much better position than most people. Just observably speaking, you're going to be able to function better. You're going to be able to have a more healthy view of the world based off of that, right? Getting into the next one, this is going to be being in the shackles of society, right? This is another struggle that you must overcome in today's generation, right? You must be in a position where you can remove yourself from the purported lies of society. Society has told you a bunch of bullshit lies in many different aspects, and you must be a great observer enough to recognize that these things are indeed bullshit. If you do any amount of research on a lot of these topics, you'll realize that most people are just talking bullshit. Most of the news, most of the mainstream narrative is bullshit. Most of it, right? I'm not going to say all of it. I'm going to say most of it. Most of it is to try to get you to think a certain way, believe a certain thing, do a certain thing, be marketed a certain way, right? But a lot of it's lies, right? Like I said, I'll give you one perfect example of removing yourself from the purported lies of society, right? There was this one event in 2020. I'm sure you guys know exactly what the hell I'm talking about, right? That convinced people to take something that they didn't even want to take, right? And people said, "Oh, it is okay, it's okay, this and this and this," right? And a lot of people were bamboozled by that shit, right? They believed the purported lies of society. They did not think for themselves. They simply observed people doing something. They observed the news and said, "That is the truth, and I believe exactly what they're saying. I do not have any thinking. I have no critical thinking skills at all. I'm going to just believe exactly what I'm told, and that's exactly what it's going to be." And that one event should have triggered you to say, "Holy shit. There's something there. Maybe they're lying. Maybe that's not the only lie that I've been told." That's for damn sure. And quite frankly, the more and more you look, the more and more you realize that there's been plenty of more lies that come along with that. So like I said, be an observer of these things, right? I'm gonna give you a few different ones, right? So let's just say the food industry, right? What is good and what is bad? I'm not gonna tell you what is good and what is bad. Do your own research, but quite frankly, I'll give you one thing. Society will tell you, "Oh, red meat is bad. Oh, salt is bad for you. Oh, you know what? This processed food is good for you," right? Oh yeah, look at this next commercial that came up. It's McDonald's. "Oh, we should go to McDonald's. It looks so good, man. I'm gonna get some food. I'm hungry, man." And then you fall for that, right? That is a lie. That is one of the purported lies that you must recognize. That is simply just trying to get you to succumb to an unhealthy behavior, right? Right? And like I said, another thing is this, right? Have you seen like the food pyramids and things like that? All none of them have any real actual legitimate advice. Let's just say that, right? So, like I said, that is just going to be one aspect. The food's one aspect. Let's just say another one, big pharma, right? Oh, you need to take medication. Oh, you have something wrong with you. Oh, there's the medication for that. Oh, you're feeling depressed. Oh, there's a medication for that, right? Oh, you're feeling anxious. Oh, well, let me give you this pill, right? They keep giving you all these things, right? What you must understand thoroughly is this: that is just another one of those lies that has been purported to you, right? There is simple solutions for the problems that most people have. If you observe people 100 years ago, like I said, not that you can really observe them, but let's just say people of the past, right? They didn't need these certain things. They had natural remedies, right? And this is just one of the aspects that is simply just a lie that is purported by society. But like I said, do your own research. Don't exactly believe what you're told. Do some actual critical thinking, and like I said, do your research, man. Because a lot of these things that I've heard and a lot of these things that I believed, I learned later on in life that were absolute lies. So don't believe the lies and simply do your own research. That's all I have to say. Let me read some of these comments. What happens when a person who is being slayed by something doesn't want to change, even if they are miserable? Also, some women like being sexual drivers in the driver's seat. It makes them feel powerful. And here's the thing: it only really makes them feel powerful because that's what they've been told. That's it. They don't. No woman really likes that. Here's the thing: I've observed women who've been a victim of let's just say a victim of a lot of sexual partners, right? Dude, they have no soul, bro. They have no soul. They've removed one of the most intimate aspects of their entire life, and they've removed it from themselves, right? That's something that should be integrated. That should be something that you value. And if you remove something that intimate from what you value, because obviously if you value it, you're going to be a lot more, careful with it. If you remove from what you value, bro, you're literally soulless, bro. It's one of the craziest things that I've ever observed. But let me go ahead and respond to that first part. What happens when a person who is being slayed by something doesn't want to change, and even if they're miserable? Okay. Um, then they're simply gonna get owned, brother. I don't know. Like I said, you see a lot of these. You see the trend of society, man. You see, in 10 years from now, people will have, in 3 years from now, people will have AI girlfriends, bro. Just to get that illusion, just to get that illusion of, oh, I have a girlfriend. Oh, she loves me. Oh, this and that. They'll have AI girlfriends, bro. We all know where it's leading, brother. But like I said, man, it's just up to you. What kind of man, what kind of character do you want to be? Do you want to be a man with a AI girlfriend, or do you want to be a man with a real girlfriend who's bad? Who like I said, just make your decisions, brother. And like I said, those people, man, unfortunately, society allows those weak people to survive and thrive. Quite frankly, it is no longer survival of the fittest, because quite frankly, if it was, they'd have been cooked a long time ago, brother. We all know that. We all know that, man. A promiscuous woman is mentally almost a man in a woman's form. Shit, I'll tell you right now, it is crazy out here, brother. It is crazy out here. But yeah, there, it's all like I said. That's a whole nother thing. But I'm gonna get into more of the shackles of society, right? But yes, I already kind of mentioned that one. Let's just do another one. Another one is this, right? This is gonna be two parts, right? And I'm sure you've seen this to an extent, right? Another shackle of society is going to be escaping the trap of doing work that is meaningless to you, right? This is going to be something that I would say 99% of people, they have this notion that they need to go ahead and work a job. They need to go to college. They need to make sure they're, getting their studies done and things like that. They need to spend 25,000 and go in debt to go ahead and learn something so they can get a degree, so they can get a job and make a lot of money, right? And then you see people that go ahead and do that, and they're literally the most miserable people. Now they can have a good time, but that obviously leads into degeneracy, right? The lust, temptation, all that other stuff, right? But of course, for the people that do go ahead and graduate, right? A lot of those people, they get a degree, right? They go into the workforce. They try to find a job, and quite frankly, nobody wants to hire them because they lack experience. And now all that time that they spent, all that money that they spent is useless. I'm not gonna say useless, but let's just say it's not as useful, or it doesn't have as much utility as it once did. It doesn't have as much power as it once did. And quite frankly, that is another trap that I would say. And like I said, of course, that leads into the other one that I just had mentioned, right? Of doing work that is meaningless to you. This is a trap that most people are in. This is a trap that I'm in right now, right? And it is going to hopefully only be a temporary thing if I make it a temporary thing. But quite frankly, most people are doing something with 1/3 of their day that they truly do not give a shit about. That they're simply doing for lucrative gain, and that's simply it, right? So with that being said, if you're one of these people, this needs to be something that you must figure out a way to get out of this. It is simply a trap. You must escape this trap of doing work that is meaningless to you. You are wasting your life. If you think you want to do that for the next 40 years, you are lying to yourself. It is not bringing you fulfillment. It is not bringing you any sort of meaning, right? Now, can you pursue that outside of work? 100%. But like I said, we're talking about 1/3 of your life, 1/3 of your day, 8 hours of your day dedicated to something you don't give a shit about. If you're not trying to find a way out and dedicating the time that you have outside of that to try to get a way out, to try to find a way out, to try to pursue something of more meaning to you, what are you doing? You're simply, like I said, in the shackles of society, right? You're simply a victim of your circumstance. You are not a controller of your destiny. You're a victim of your circumstance. It's building that skill what counts, the knowledge. And you're 100,000% right. You're 1,000% right. Appreciate your comment. Getting into the next one, the shackles of society, right? I kind of already mentioned this. This is gonna go kind of hand in hand, right? This is gonna be the food and water, right? Obviously, we all know this. Most of the food that is provided to us is not good. It is not healthy, right? Not as healthy as we would like it to be, right? Even the fruits, even the vegetables, right? Even some of the animals filled with a bunch of stuff that isn't good for us, right? But we still have to eat it because, quite frankly, that's the only thing we have. The fast food is very very convenient. All you have to do is pull up to the drive-through. You don't even have to get out your car. You get your food, drive back home, and now you're in the comfort of your own home with food that is cheap, right? That is a shackle. That is a shackle not only of the mind but of society, because now it is okay. Okay, that makes sense, right? I'm gonna go ahead and get some food. It's convenient. It's cheap, and I can get back to being comfortable by being in my own home, right? That is a shackle of the mind, because quite frankly, like I said, what is that body going to look like? It's going to look like trash, and we all know it, right? Even the water that we drink, right? I'm gonna say this is a shackle of society, because quite frankly, we can't really escape this unless you have an abundance of money, right? Water, for example, right? If you don't know this, your water is absolutely terrible right now. Whether you're drinking a bottled water, whether you're drinking tap water, it's all bad for you. It's all recycled water, right? Once you begin to understand this, and once you begin to do some research, you start to realize how shitty the quality of water that we drink is. So, for example, one aspect of it is this, right? Tap water, everybody knows this. If you don't know it by now, it has fluoride, right? Fluoride's not good for the brain. Fluoride's not good for the brain functions. Fluoride's not good for the pineal gland of the brain. That's something that hopefully you know. If you don't know, then you do some research. And like I said, consumption of fluoride is also linked, and you can find studies for this. It's linked with lowering of IQ. So automatically, it's literally making you more dumb. It is a shackle of society, like I mentioned, right? So not only is the food not good for you, but it's cheap and convenient, so you're still going to pay for it. But now the water that you drink, even in water bottles, is not as well filtered as you think it would be. And another aspect of this as well, right? Like I said, if you didn't know this, this will be knowledge to some people, right? The water that you drink. I have a water bottle right here, man. I'm a victim of this as well, right? This is the unfortunate shackle that I'm in right now, right? The water that you drink in a water bottle is pretty much recycled water, right? So let's just say you go to the bathroom, right? You go to take a piss, right? You flush the toilet, right? 2 years later, that water that you flush down the toilet is going to be the same water that's in here. It's just going to be filtered. It's just going to be whatever filter is going to be, it's going to be going through. But essentially, it is recycled water, right? And with that being said, there's one thing that is in that water, obviously, besides all the shit and literally the actual shit, of course. But there's one thing in there that they really can't filter, and this is the shackle of society, right? This makes you dumb. This makes you less of a man, right? And you're probably thinking to yourself, what the hell is he talking about? I'm gonna get to it right now, right? If you didn't know this, let's just say there's women that exist, right, that are on birth control, right? They take the pill every single day or whatever. I don't know how that shit works, right? Let's just say they take it every day, right? Because I think that's what it is, right? They go pee, And obviously, it goes through their system when you drink something or when you eat something, it goes through, your kidneys or whatever, right? Your liver, whatever, right? And then they pee into the water, right? And like I had mentioned, that water that they peed in, right, is now 2 years later. I'm like I said, I'm just giving you some reference, right? Is now recycled back into this water bottle right here, and that is not something that they go ahead and filter out. So that birth control that was in the water, that was in the piss of a woman who was on birth control, is now in the water that you drink. So whatever's in there is, if you're a man, it's literally making you less like a man. And they've done some studies on this. They did a study. Like I said, I'm going to butcher this study, but like I said, if you heard of the study, let me know that you've heard of this study, right? They did a study on frogs, and essentially they put them in water that was less potent of that same type of chemical that's in the water that we drink. And when they put the frogs in this water, the frogs actually change genders. The male frogs turn female. Some of the male frogs turn female. And like I said, the concentration of the chemical that is in birth control was less in that water than it is within the water in which we drink. That is a shackle of society, right? That would be one way of making your people weaker. That is one way of making your men less like men. Simply put, that is only just one way. Like I said, these are the shackles of society. I'm only mentioning a few of them. But like I said, if there's any other if there's any other shackles of society that you see, let me know. But yeah, that is just one of them. If you didn't know that, hey, now you know. And quite frankly, like I said, I'll give you the solution to that, right? For food, eat more red meats, eat more just meats in general, right? Fish. Like I said, it depends on what fish, right? Of course, eat more red meat, eat more chicken, right? Those are all going to be somewhat healthy for you. More healthy, I'd say. Eat more eggs, things like that, right? Water, if you can, get a reverse osmosis filter. That's going to be good for you. If you can, if you want to spend the extra money, drink spring water, glassed spring water. That is going to be the best water you can possibly drink. But yeah, it is just a crazy thing. And like I said, I always talk about this within my day-to-day life, but now I need to talk about it on the podcast. But it is just one of those fascinating things. Like I said, it's the shackle of society, and like I said, most people are going to be doing these things and unconsciously moving like this for sure. Society is trying to make people fat. That's why fast food is significantly cheaper than healthy food. Exactly. It's convenient and it's cheap. So of course, and it's fast, right? So of course, that's what people are going to do, right? And we can get into that, man. We can get into that, right? So Anthony mentioned another one. Society is trying to make people fat. This is another struggle that you must overcome, right? This is going to be within your body. This is your temple, right? If you look around, if you live in America and you look around, right? If you're in Western culture, right? You might find out that a lot of people are overweight, man. A lot of people, they don't look that good. Let's just be for real here. Let's keep it 1,000. Let's call it out for what it is. Most people don't really look good. Do you really want to look like most people, man? I don't want to look like most people, quite frankly. Most people are overweight. Most people are depressed. Most people are anxious. Most people are, you know, let's just say not taking care of themselves as much as they possibly could, right? That's just like I said, just be a simple observer. That's just what it is, right? There's a, I don't know the obesity rate. I'm sure somebody could do some research on. Oh yeah, 46% of people are obese in the United States, right? I'm sure you could find some study like that. But then just think about that for a second. You're talking about nearly half, even if it's 35%, even if it's 25%, a fourth of the people, more than a fourth, right? A fifth of the people, right? A third of the people are overweight, or not necessarily overweight, obese. That's insane, right? That is a struggle that you must overcome. So the way that you must overcome that is your diet. That is like I had mentioned, the foods that you eat, the foods that you choose to eat, right? And more importantly, working out, right? That is another way to defy the struggle that you must overcome. If you're a person right now that doesn't work out, you're basically, your actions are suggesting that you do not care about your body. And if you only have one body and you do not take care of it very, very well, it's going to break down. And when it breaks down and you don't work out, you should not complain about shit. Because quite frankly, you did not do your best to take care of the body, the one body that you have, and the one body that you will only have. So how can you really complain? How can you say, well, oh man, man, I found out, man, I'm a diabetic, man. I found out, oh, man, I have this, right? Or, oh man, I need to start taking this medication because I'm overweight now, man. Or, oh, I have this health problem. Oh man, now I gotta. You should have been taking care of your fucking body. What the fuck? What the fuck have you been doing? Of course, of course. If you look at the trajectory of the actions that you're taking daily, it's of course you're going to end up like that. It only makes sense, right? To be shocked or to be pissed off because you're not healthy or you're not as healthy as you could be or you're having health complications, right? Most of the time speaking, right? Why the fuck would you be mad? You simply put yourself in that position. You simply did not work out. You simply chose to eat like shit. You simply chose to go to McDonald's instead of eating better, right? It is the shackle of society. It is the obstacle that society places in front of you. But quite frankly, you can either fall for that trick or you can say, oh, well, okay, I recognize that that is a trick. I recognize that that is not ideal. I recognize that I value a healthy body. And I recognize that I must act as if I value a healthy body. And I must change my habits because, quite frankly, that only makes sense, right? So therefore, ask yourself, are you going to are you going to make a difference within your body? Or are you just going to you accept yourself being fat and deal with all the health problems? And like I said, if you're a person, if you recognize people who are dealing with health problems, of course I'm not going to say if you work out and eat right, you're not going to have any health problems. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're going to avoid yourself from many different problems that most people have that you will never have because quite frankly you took care of your body better than they did. It only makes sense, right? How many people have we seen from high school that are now overweight? Anthony's exactly correct. Most people that I've seen from high school look shittier than they did in high school. They fell off. They're overweight. Like a crazy story. Oh man, I gained 50 pounds, man. After high school, I don't know what happened, man. I just gained 60 pounds, bro. What the fuck were you doing? You didn't work out and you ate like shit. Of course you're gonna gain that weight. It only makes sense, bro. It only makes sense. Because here's the thing. In that time that you had spent eating like shit and not working out, you know what I was doing? I was taking care of my health. I became more intentional with what I ate. I became more intentional with the way in which I wanted to work out. And that is why I look the way that I do, and that is why that I avoided the ways in which I see other people look, is because I said, this is something that probably needs to be prioritized. I value looking good. I value a healthy body. I value a healthy mind. So I must act like I do. And that is the decision that you would make. It would only make sense to make that decision, right? Anything that defies that doesn't make any sense. It's simply a contradiction of value. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Tomorrow's news today. Shout out to Alex. Come on now, you know what time it is. Too damn many. Most people are considered obese. The greatest country with the sickest people. Shake my head. Exactly right, GDP. Exactly right. Most people are considered obese, right? It's simply based off of their actions, right? Like I said, you can't say, "Oh man, I just can't. You already lost, brother. If you say you can't, if you try to blame an external source instead of taking accountability and responsibility for your life, you've lost already. There's no coming back from that, brother. I'm sorry, there's not. You've already delegated. You've already put yourself in that victim mentality of saying, "Oh well, man, I can't lose weight, man. Man, like, bro, you can stop eating shit, can you? You could start working out, can you? Then why aren't you doing it? Right? Like I said, what do you value, man? Like shout out to my last podcast that I did, values over wants. That's what it was. If you tap in with that podcast, the podcast was great, man. I'm not even gassing myself. That podcast was genuinely one of my best ones that I've ever did. So tap in with that one for sure. But yeah, that is another obstacle. Like I said, I'm not gonna go too deep into that. All I have to say, eat better, man. Be more intentional with what you eat. Like I start taking out the seed oils, start taking out the food dyes, stop eating fast food as much, and start working out. Right, well, 2 days, 3 days a week, and you're gonna be fine. That's all I have to say. Right, start with that, and you'll be good. Right, like I said, I'm now not only am I going to recognize the struggles that you must overcome in today's society, in today's generation. Right, I'm going to give you somewhat of the solution for this. So at least somewhat of the game plan that you need, the mentality, the mindset that you need, the guidance that you need. That is going to put you in a better position. Because quite frankly, like I said, we all can recognize that most people are struggling with these things. And now I'm not gonna just let you struggle with these things, man. Here's the thing. I'm gonna give you the information, and if you still struggle with these things, quite frankly, that's on you, not on me. But like I said, I at least want you to be guilty. If you choose to defy this, if you choose to defy the things that I've been saying, the things that you value, the things that you want out of this life, you should feel guilty. And that's all I have to say about that. Moving on to the next one. Another obstacle of society is going to be the economy, right? Like I said, this is I'm not gonna go too deep on this. Obviously, we can all recognize at least within the country that I'm in right now, the economy and money is a struggle for a lot of people, right? Obviously, you must find a way to make more money. Simple as that, right? But obviously, the value of the dollar bill has been to shit, and it's only probably going to get worse from here on out. But yes, the economy is not in our favor, especially with people within my generation specifically. Um, you see them develop, I would say, awkwardly when compared to their parents, right? Their parents were able to, oh yeah, when I was 22, I had a wife and I had a home already. Oh, and I had a job, and my wife could stay home, and I could just work, and then she was taken care of, and I was like 23 years old. That shit is not fucking a reality for a lot of people nowadays, right? Let's just be for real with it, right? That is an obstacle of society that we have to say, because quite frankly it does exist, right? Money does not stretch as far as it once did, right? There are certain things that was once able to be done that is no longer easily accessible or as easily to go ahead and do nowadays, right? And like I said, I can only speak from the observations that I've had of people, right? I would say a lot of people of the older generation, they kind of look down upon this generation, when in reality we're dealing with certain things, certain struggles that have been added on to us. Now, there's plenty of things. There's plenty of things that we have an advantage over. Of course, we have an abundance of information that our past parents did not have. Right? Let's just be for real with it. Right? But quite frankly, a lot of people do not know how to use their resources properly. And on top of that, like I said, money just doesn't stretch as far, man. We have to work pretty much harder than our parents did to still get less than what our parents got. That's just what it is. That's like I said, that's my observations. Now, like I said, is there more upside? I would say so, right? You see people that are streaming like me that make millions of dollars, right? From sitting down and talking to a camera. Simple as that, right? But at the end of the day, that's still an obstacle that we must admit is probably something that is really really shit. Not probably, is really really shit, honestly. If you can and say you can, then you can. If you can and say that you can, then you can, or you can't. But if you can't and you say you can't, then you can. Like like losing a race that you never even ran. Yes, yes, exactly. It is all within your mentality. If you believe that you can, then you can. And if you believe that you can't, then you most definitely won't. That's for damn sure, right? It only makes sense, right? Your belief is going to only go as far. You're only going to go as far as your belief, right? If you lose the race, if they say and you already lost and they didn't even say go yet, because of your mindset, then quite frankly that is another struggle that you must overcome, which is going to be your mind, right? We'll get into that in a minute, right? But a few more that I want to mention, right? Another struggle that you must overcome in today's generation is going to be the traps of social media on your mind, right? Everybody can admit this. Most people will admit this, at least, hopefully. We have this generation of people. We have a social media addiction. This is not no fucking. Oh, really? Oh my God, I didn't know that. Oh, do I have one? Come on now, brother. We all have this, right? This is why most people their attention spans is shit. Let's be for real. It's like 5 seconds. That's why all the shorts and shit, they're scrolling through the shorts, man. If something doesn't catch their eye immediately, they're just gonna scroll past it, right? We've all seen people do this. Obviously, I'm a victim of this as well. You watching this, you're probably a victim of this as well. But you must figure out a way to regulate that and be better about that, right? You must have some type of self control. I'm not saying okay, go ahead and delete every single social media app and never use social media ever. I'm not saying that shit, right? I'm saying be aware and be conscious of what you're doing. And like I said, if you need to have a break, go ahead and take a break, man. If you need to go ahead and make adjustments, go ahead and make adjustments. But at least recognize this, because quite frankly, it's very easy to be a victim of this and not even know that you are. And truly, most are, quite frankly. Obviously, we can recognize like I said, this isn't something mind blowing, but this is a struggle that you must overcome. You must have some type of self discipline when it comes to this, because quite frankly, if you don't, You're gonna get tricked. You're gonna be a victim to social media. It's gonna absolutely abuse you, and you have no other. Not even no other option. It's gonna act. You're gonna act like you have no other option. You're gonna be scrolling. You're gonna be stuck on this loop for 3 or 4 hours, just scrolling and doing nothing, numbing your mind. I'm sure you've seen people do this. I'm sure you've done it yourself. Be conscious of this, and hopefully you can do something better for that for sure. Getting into the next one. Okay, this is gonna be very very broad, but I want to say this because I feel like people are going to need to hear this, right? Man must defeat body with mind, knowing that the mind is the greatest trickster of all. We all know this. Your mind can convince you of things that are truly not real. Like Anthony had mentioned, right? That one simple aspect of believing you can't is going to trigger the fact that you won't. And like I said, that one belief of saying that you can, no matter how irrational of this, at least gives you a chance, right? But you got to at least give yourself a chance. And with that being said, when it comes to dealing with one of the struggles that you must overcome in today's generation, it is going to be your limiting mind at certain times, right? I would say most people that I've observed have a very, very limiting mindset. They have a very, very limited scope. Um, and with that being said, they kind of take that with everything that they do, and then their life is the life of an average person, and they really don't seek out anything besides the average, or maybe they don't even know anything exists, or maybe they succumb to life, and life has beat them down so many damn times to the point where they don't feel like they have any hope. Quite frankly, that could be another thing as well. But just know there's going to be a lot of struggles that you will have within your mind, but you must feel as if you can overcome these things, because if you can't, if you say you can't, then you definitely won't. That's for sure. But yes, one thing that I will say with this as well, like I said, I kind of already mentioned some of these things, but you must be able and willing to confront things that everyone else is avoiding. If you can do that, if you can take on these things head on instead of dodging it, instead of, avoiding it, instead of, doing what most people and handling it the way that most people would, you're going to be in a much better position. You're going to stand out, and you're going to have a certain type of mental resilience that you recognize that is not common, right? That is something that I've done. There's a lot of struggles that I've had, um, that I needed to go through that in order to build up my character, right? That I understood, quite frankly, that most people were not even ready or well equipped to go ahead and battle with, because quite frankly they would much rather just succumb to the way that life is, instead of saying, you know what, I can be a person who defies this. I can be a person who can come up with a solution to this problem, instead of saying, you know what, well, I'm here, and I'm not really gonna do anything about it, because quite frankly, I'm just gonna put it in the back of my mind and not deal with it. I'm gonna leave it in the closet, man, and hope it doesn't grow, man. And little do they know, that shit's gonna grow, brother. That shit's gonna grow. The solutions, the greatest breakthrough that you will have will be from the problem that you're avoiding most, and that is what I've learned from my own personal experiences. Like I said, I was able to do things that, quite frankly, most men would never even imagine doing. Right? I'll give you one example. Right? You must confront you must confront everything that everyone else is avoiding. Right? So one thing, right? Like I said, everyone's avoiding the need to go ahead and conquer the beast of lust. That's what it is in many different ways. Maybe they're sleeping around with a bunch of women. Maybe they're not sleeping with anyone. Maybe they're only sleeping with their hand, right? That's what it is. Call it out. Call it out how it is, man. With that being said, I had did something because I recognized that I didn't want that life, and I didn't want either of those lives. I didn't want to sleep around with a bunch of women, even though I could, and I didn't want the life of, you know you know what I'm talking about, brother. You know what I'm talking about. You're chilling with your right hand man. You already know what I'm talking about, brother. But with that being said, man, I didn't want either of those lives. So before I met the woman that I have right now, I went 7 months celibate, right? Selectively celibate, which is something that you probably have never heard anyone actually go ahead and do. That's outside of women, right? Usually, if you're a man, if you either get sex you either get sex or you can't get sex, right? And if you get sex, you're probably going to consistently indulge within that. And if you can't, or you can't, then you just fucking don't. And simple as that, right? But for a person to say, you know what, I can get sex, but you know what, I'm going to go ahead and defeat the demons that we have within our own minds. I'm going to go ahead and defeat the temptation, the lust, the excessive pleasure that I see a lot of people become a victim to, because I want to be able to see how my character is going to be developed based off of that. That's what I went ahead and did. And like I said, I found a wonderful woman after that journey, right? Like that's something that I would recommend. If you're a person that can sleep around with a bunch of women, I recommend you don't. That's gonna be much more of a great time. You'll learn a lot more about yourself. You'll develop your character in a lot of ways in which you will never be able to do if you just go ahead and indulge within every single pleasure and go ahead and being a dog, man. Like I said, it's only fun for a limited amount of time. Then you realize you're feeding a bottomless pit, brother. You'll never get enough. You'll never get enough. So yes, you must confront everything that everyone else is avoiding, right? Confront these things head on. Do not defy these things. Do not put them off. Face them head on. Deal with the consequences, deal with the pain, deal with the struggle, and maybe you'll come out on the other end. And hopefully if you even take that approach, odds is you're going to come out on the other end. And it, like I said, it's just a matter of time, right? But if you're constantly putting in the work and you're constantly trying to persist through the difficulties, you will get on the other side if you're constantly going ahead and making that a conscious action for sure. And I'm going to go ahead and say a few more of these things, and then I'm going to go ahead and end it off. But like I had mentioned, right, if there's any specific thing that I haven't yet mentioned that you believe to be a struggle that this generation is dealing with, I want you to go to let me know in the comments, man. Whether you're rewatching this or watching this live, let me know for sure. All right, getting into one of the last ones that I have. This is going to be this is going to be a general idea, probably a general idea that you probably have never heard, but a general idea that would definitely help a lot of people out if they actually knew exactly how to apply this, right? This is going to be, hold up. One of the biggest struggles that you must overcome in today's generation, and that I see that most people have to deal with, or not have to deal with, but just end up dealing with, is going to be a lack of defined values, a lack of defined boundaries, a lack of expectations or set expectations, right? And a lack of principles. All of these things lead into so many more problems if they're not clearly defined, right? This is something that I've seen time and time again, whether it's an expectation that you place on a person that you're dating, or maybe it's a value that you have, but instead of valuing that and truly living by what you value, you're succumbing to the things in which you want, right? Or maybe it's another boundary. Maybe it's a boundary that you have with another person, right? Maybe it's just a regular person, right? And they're stepping on your boundary, right? Or maybe it's a principle that you want to stand on, but quite frankly, your environment is not letting you stand on that as much as you would like, and quite frankly, you're succumbing to your environment instead of living like a man of true good moral principle, right? These lack of defined values, lack of defined boundaries, lack of defined expectations, and lack of defined principles is going to lead you in so many different problems. And until I had solidified most of these things, life was not as good as it could have been. And the second I started clearly defining these things and being very, very intentional and being very, very mindful and maybe even writing them out and trying my best to live by them, that is that is a part of fulfillment, right? That is a part of fulfillment for damn sure. So be clear on what you value and live by what you value, right? Be clear of what your boundaries look like, right? If a person disrespects you, how are you going to handle that, right? Why are they disrespecting you in the first place, right? Have a boundary. Let's just say you have a boundary within dating, right? Let's just say you meet a woman and you have this one boundary that you want to be firm on, right? That other women have done you dirty on, right? Be clear, be upfront about these things, right? It's gonna avoid you from dealing with so many problems that you don't have to deal with if you have it clearly defined and you act on it being clearly defined, right? Or the expectation, right? And let's just say you had an unconscious expectation on somebody and they defied that expectation, but quite frankly, they didn't even knew that expectation existed within your mind because you didn't verbalize that expectation. And you wanted them to live up to this expectation, and quite frankly, you were let down because they didn't know, right? Or like I said, maybe it's a principle that you have, right? Maybe you're trying to live, maybe you have this vague idea of a principle that you want to go ahead and live by, but you keep succumbing to your environment. Your environment is not letting you allow it's not allowing you, and you're not allowing yourself to live by these principles, right? You're giving yourself too many cop outs. Your environment is not set up for your success, and therefore you're not living like a man of principle, right? These lack these lack of defined everything is going to put you in a position where, like I said, you're just going to encounter problems that truly you would not have, right? Once I started to become a lot more aware of these things, man, I avoided so many problems within relationships, within friends, within regular interactions with people, within my own internal battles within myself, right? The second I became more clearly defined on my values, right? I learned what to live by. I learned what I'm willing to put up with. I learned um what I'm not going to settle for, right? What I'm going to live by, right? I understood these things thoroughly, right? The second I clarified my boundaries, I was thriving much more with women than I was without it, right? I came up to women and said, "Hey, I'm not willing to deal with this, right? If you have a guy friends, I'm not having that shit. You're gonna have no guy friends, and I'm gonna be your only guy friend, or I'm gonna be your only person, or I'm not gonna deal with that shit because I didn't like the way that it made me feel, right? So I set that boundary down, right? Or maybe there's a certain expectation that I had. I made this very, very clear. Hey, this is my expectation. You either take it or leave it, right? Simple as that. Being clear with these things, right? Don't let these things come out in very, very brash ways, right? And that's what most people do, right? Look at a lot of problems that people have within relationships. They're probably speaking on uncommunicated boundary or expectation that they had on a partner that their partner defied, and quite frankly, that is why they have the problem. Because quite frankly, they did not verbalize the boundary, they did not verbalize the expectation, or that person did not live up to the value that they anticipated that person would. But how the fuck does that person know if you don't say anything? You see what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any sense, right? So, like I said, having a lack of defined everything is going to lead to real problems. A lot more problems than you could even ever imagine, and a lot more problems that you don't have to deal with if you do have it clearly defined. Have it clearly defined. Quite frankly, living without these things defined is one of the dumbest existences that I see everyone, or not everyone, but most people live with. And like I said, hey man, I see these people having problems. I don't want to deal with that shit. So how do I avoid myself from dealing with the shit that most people have to deal with, or not that most people settle to deal with? And I said, okay, well, most people don't have any clearly defined values and they don't live by their values. Okay, that's one, right? A lot of people in relationships, the reason why most people have relationships is because they don't have clear boundaries, right? They don't have clear expectations. Okay, so I need to make sure. Okay, this is the expectations that I have for myself, and this is the expectations that I would have for the woman that I want to date, right? Or this is the boundaries that I want to place on myself. So therefore, I want to place these boundaries on the woman that I'm dealing with, right? But having these things clearly defined, when I went into these interactions, when I went into any and every interaction, it's going to run a lot more smooth. There's going to be a lot less bumps. There's going to be a lot less friction. There's going to be a lot less guessing. There's going to be a lot less frustration and anger and resentment if you have these things clearly defined, right? Just observe people and their problems, man. That's all I have to say. Be an observer. You want to avoid yourself from a lot of problems, man? Live by what you value, right? Be clear on your boundaries. Be clear of your expectations of others. Be clear of your expectations of yourself, right? Be clear of the principles that you want to live by. That's it. That's it, brother. You're gonna avoid yourself from a lot of problems internally and with people. You're good. Last thing I want to say is this. This is going to be another struggle that you must overcome in today's generation. And I kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I want to go ahead and mention it again, right? Most people, they lack grit. They do not want to do hard things, so therefore they don't. And quite frankly, society allows you to get away without doing anything that's actually hard, anything that's actually challenging, at the slightest sense of something that is challenging or harsh or uncomfortable. You could choose the route and saying, I don't want to do it, man. So I don't have to do it, right? And you living like that, or most people living like that, is the reason why they're out of shape. Is the reason they're overweight, right? Is the reason they don't want to work out. That's just simply what it is, right? Obviously, and like I said, is the reason why they're mentally just weak, and they can get easily ran over, right? Is the reason why they get disrespected. Is because they're not creating a person that is worthy of respect, right? And like I said, a lot of people say, "Oh, what do you mean worthy of respect? Everybody's worthy of respect." We all know, I don't care how good of a person you are, there's going to be people that you're more willing to disrespect and more people willing that you're willing to go ahead and respect. Let's just keep it a thousand. Let's keep it a thousand. You don't be one of these people who are trying to set on the moral high ground of, oh, I respect everybody. Oh, come on, brother. There's going to be certain people in the world you would never even think about disrespecting at all, right? At all. And you're not going to say that's everybody. That's for damn sure, right? If somebody comes in and slaps you in the face, you're going to be very, very okay with disrespecting them. That's just what it is, right? But at the same time, people lack grit. And grit builds character, grit builds self-discipline, grit builds people who are worthy of respect. Most people lack it, so therefore, you see the reaction of this, right? Here's the thing: if a lot more people had grit, they would respect a lot more people properly. That's for damn sure, right? So, like I said, right, a lot of people can void themselves out of these things with the modern day conventions that make it easy to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm not gonna really go hunt my meal. I'd rather just pull up to Wendy's, man. I just pull up to Wendy's real quick, get my food. I'm out of there, man. I don't have to think about it. I'm just gonna eat my food. I'm just gonna get fat. Simple. It's easy. It's easy. See what I'm saying, right? They don't lack grit. They don't earn their meals. They don't go in their workout and say, you know what, I'm gonna put a hard workout in, and after I'm done with this workout, I'm gonna eat a quality meal because that's what I deserve, right? They lack the grit. They lack that aspect of doing hard things. Here's the thing. What you must understand is this, right? If you're a properly programmed person, doing hard things is actually good. It's actually a good thing, right? So I'll give you an example of some of the hard things that I've done that were what would be perceived as hard, right? And like I said, most people wouldn't even imagine doing this shit because, quite frankly, they're weak. They're mentally and physically just fucking down horrendous, right? A cold plunge. A cold plunge is one of those things that is extremely hard and mentally challenging, but once you do it, it's great, right? Working out is one of those things that is mentally hard and physically challenging, but if you do it, and after you do it, you feel fucking great, right? And that's just simply what it is, right? Like I said, those are only going to be a few examples, but quite frankly, doing the hard thing, right? Maintaining focus. This is another one, right? I could make an entire podcast based off of this, right? But I'm just gonna mention a small part about this, right? Focus is another thing, right? When you feel like you want to distract yourself, when you feel that temptation to say, you know what, there's a barrier of resistance that's in front of me right now. You know what, just fuck it. I'm just gonna go ahead and go on my phone, right? Saying, you know what, I feel this temptation, I feel this urge, but you know what? I value focus because I know focus is gonna allow me to get to the place that I want to go a lot sooner than if I distract myself. So therefore, like I said, that right there, that is grit. That is the grit that I'm talking about. That is not seeking out the comfort, right? That is one of the biggest struggles that we deal with within today's society. Just observe it, right? Most people don't want to do that. Most people don't want to focus. Most people don't want to have any grit. Most people don't want to work out. Most people want to be overweight. That's just what it is. Look at their actions. Of course they want to be like that. Most people want to sleep in. Most people want to be lazy. Most people just want to sit on the couch. That's just what it is. We all know this. Build some more grit, man. Do some hard things because, quite frankly, like I said, hard things are rewarding. People have this misperception of doing easy things, living comfortable is rewarding. It's rewarding to your fucked brain. Yes, yeah, you get dopamine from fucking scrolling on TikTok. Of course you do. But you know what kind of dopamine you get from a good workout? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you definitely don't, come on, brother. You already lost. Like I said, do hard things, man. Hard things hard things are just too easy to avoid now. That's just what it is at the end of the day. So, with this being said, do some more hard things within your life, right? Take on some more challenges. Give yourself some more pressure. And you're going to be a better person and you're going to develop a character that you would not be able to do and would not be able to build without it. That is a struggle that most people have, that quite frankly, most people always try to go ahead and avoid. But if you go ahead and prioritize this, you've just conquered one thing that most people are unwilling to even consider conquering. And that's just as simple as that. That is today's episode, man. Like I said, if you're rewatching this and you have another thing that you want me to go ahead and mention, maybe I'll make a part two to this, right? Because obviously there is a lot of struggles that you must overcome in today's generation, right? Um, but yeah, maybe I'll make a part two. If you guys have any more comments or questions or anything, I'll wait a few more minutes and then I'll go ahead and end it off. But yeah, I said everything I needed to say for today's episode, right? Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Hopefully you can take something from this. Hopefully you learned something. And like I mentioned, right, if you did learn anything at all, let me know. And like I said, if there's anything that you wish for me to go ahead and expand on, leave it in the comments. Or if there's any suggestions that you have that is a struggle that you see that most people in today's generation, um, that in which they must overcome, let me know for sure. But yes, I've said everything I needed to say. Fantastic, man. I enjoyed this one very, very much. Obviously, you can see that I have a lot of passion with when I talk about these certain things. Quite frankly, I like I said, dealing with these things, and not only dealing with these things myself, going through the battles myself, but also observing people go through these things, or rather, not go through these things, is probably one of the dumbest shit that I've ever seen in my life. Like it's so goofy, man. But yeah, go through these things, man. Do hard shit. Get some grit on you, man. Take on challenges, develop your character, be clear on your morals and values and your principles and your boundaries and your standards. Do all these things, man. You're going to be a better person for it, right? Defeat lust like I had mentioned, right? Remove the shackles that society has placed on you, right? Navigate through the obstacles that society is putting in front of you, right? Don't fall for the narratives, don't fall for the bullshit lies, right? Be the master of your mind, right? Understand that the mind is the greatest trickster of all, and stop avoiding the things that most people are avoiding. Confront those things head on, and you're going to be a better person for it. This was episode 190 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about overcoming the biggest struggles of today's generation. If you liked it, like I said, make sure and leave a like, but I'll go ahead and end it off. Before I go and end it off, follow me on Twitch, TikTok, and on Rumble at Life of a Champ podcast on every single platform. And yeah, it's just like that, man. I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas, out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you outwork these motherfuckers because everybody in this chat should be and is. Come on now, you already know what time it is, man. But yeah, we get into it, man. Get to the work. Next podcast is going to be on Thursday, so tap in with that for sure. Like I said, this upcoming week is going to be more live stream. So if there's a specific video that you want to go ahead and react to, or like I said, if there's anything that you want me to go ahead and react to, let me know for sure. But other than that, I said everything I need to say for today's episode. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. And like I said, until next time, tap in with the next podcast on Thursday. Y'all have a good night, man.